Hello everybody, my name is Grace and today I'm going to go to a new book. Who is George Lucas? Who is George Lucas? In 1977, film director George Lucas invited some friends to his house in San Anselmo, California. He promised to show them an early unfinished version of the movie he was making. George had been working on Star Wars for 18 hours a day for over a year. George settled everyone in front of the screen where they watched Luke Skywalker battling Darth Vader and dreaded Death Star. They meet the droids R2D2 and C3PO. They learned about the Force, the mystical power that let Jedi space knights use to control the world around them. When the movie finished, everyone thinking the same thing. It was a disaster. After the screening, one friend who wasn't afraid to tell George what he really thought, Brian De Palma, another young director, teased him relentlessly about the almighty Force and the questionable wardrobe choices. "Hey George, what were those Danish rolls doing in the princess ears?" He asked about Princess Leia's soon-to-be famous hairstyle. Even worse than De Palma's teasing, the pity expressed by George's other friends. Always shy and quiet, George simply listened to the criticism. Steven Spielberg thought the movie was good, but George had already accepted that it was a failure. "I figured, well, it was just a silly movie," he said later. "It ain't going to work." At the screening, Alan Ladd Jr., the studio executive who had given George the money to make Star Wars, called Spielberg and asked him what he really thought about the movie. "I think this film is going to make $100 million, Spielberg said. "People will love it." Spielberg was right. People loved Star Wars. That he didn't know was that Star Wars would become much more than a hit movie. It would forever change the movies were made. Chapter 1. Ramona Avenue. On May 14, 1944, George Wharton Lucas, Jr., was born in Modesto, California. His father, George Sr., and his mother, Dorothy, already had two daughters, Anne and Katie. When George was 3, his young sister, Wendy, was born. Growing into the family of Ramona Avenue as a young boy, George often ran errands for his father's stationery store after school, but he wasn't interested in greeting cards and writing paper. What George loved was listening to radio shows and picturing everything in his mind. He loved comic books like Scrooge McDuck and pulp magazines like Amazing Stories. When the family got their first television, George was 10, he devoured new shows like Afghan Will Travel and Gunsmoke. He also watched old serials on TV. Serials were short movies that always ended on a cliffhanger with a hero in danger. George loved wondering what would happen next. To George, the stories in his head were more interesting than the things he was studying in school. His grades showed it. His father wasn't happy with his report cards, but George's imagination was too big to control. He was making plans. With the help of his sister Wendy and his best friends, John Plummer and George Frankenstein, he organized a backyard carnival with rides and games, a homemade fun house, and a zoo filled with the pets in the neighborhood. At the center of the carnival was a roller coaster that George designed. It rolled down an incline, rotated on a turntable made out of a huge telephone wire spool, and rolled onto the ground. George also liked building environments, tiny worlds, cities, and forests made out of dirt, berries, and cement poured into carefully made molds. When George had an idea, it could be amazing. When George was 11, his family traveled to Anaheim, California, for the opening of Disneyland. Disneyland was like one of George's environments on a grand scale, a whole world built from imagination of one man, Walt Disney. George sure thought practical things, like earning money, were more important than imagination. Other Lucas children worked hard for a weekly allowance. One of George's chores was mowing the lawn with manual mower. He was so small he couldn't do it well. If only they had an electric lawn mower, he could do his chores more quickly and effectively. But electric lawn mowers were expensive. For 4 months, George saved every penny of his allowance. They gave him $35, still not enough for a lawnmower. He borrowed another $25 from his mother and bought a power mower for $60. George was furious that George didn't ask permission, but he watched the boy cutting the grass more smoothly than he had ever before. He felt a strange kind of pride. George was stubborn. He did things the way he wanted to do them. But his father couldn't deny that the lawnmowers was a smart idea. In his own way, his imaginative son was also a good businessman. So that's the end of chapter 1, and I will see you in chapter 2. Bye!